Innovation is extremely important. It's one of our big criteria when we look at potential partners.
Hello, my name is Jason Reichl, and you're listening to Risk Management Brick by Brick. I'm fascinated with people who are helping build and maintain the physical world around us. On each episode of this podcast, we'll dive in with a risk manager, speak to them about how technology plays a role in this process.
Hello, I'm Jason Reichl. Welcome to ITC Brick by Brick. I'm here with Ashish. Why don't you give us a little intro about yourself?
Thank you for having me and very excited to be here. So by a bit of a background, I am the CEO of Insurance and Risk Management for Blackstone Real Estate. My company, Advantage, is the portfolio operations arm. So we work with all the portfolio companies of Blackstone Real Estate across asset classes to manage their risk, place insurance, think about the creative ways in which we can get a strategic edge in the market. Prior to this, I was a senior vice president at Zurich Insurance in strategy and execution. And then I worked for about 7.5 years at McKinsey Company, where I was an associate partner. 6 of those years were spent on insurance. And like you said, just landed in insurance by happenstance. I started serving a broker, a very large broker on sales and commission topic.
Yeah.
And then one thing led to another and fell into it.
So when we're talking about, let's start a little bit about your current role. We're talking about risk for that whole portfolio. What does that actually look like? What does that mean to manage that? Does that mean risk management as an internal BPO of the broader thing? How does that process work for you guys?
The big part of it is that because there are so many portfolio companies across asset classes, the pooling of the assets create an inherent diversification when we go to market as a big program. It also gives us more edge over the carriers and brokers because of the scale of our program. And honestly, anecdotally, we hear that it gets us great prices as well, good terms and conditions. So the scale is a big part of how we go to market. The other sort of aspect of it is we look at things holistically. So if you think about a real estate assets, everything that Blackstone does from its acquisition to the holding period to disposition, we are involved to make sure that insurance remains a strategic advantage for Blackstone, primarily because insurance is one of the top costs in real estate. I think I've heard that after taxes, property taxes, insurance is the number 2 cost. So it really moves the needle as it comes to the investment hypothesis. So our job is to make sure that we are competitive versus other investors in the market.
I know that you're doing talk here at ITC. Why don't you give a preview of what that is? What's the customer report card? What are you going to be talking about today?
No, I'm excited about my topic later today, and it primarily focuses on what customers need and what the insurance market actually delivers. And I am a firm believer that InsurTechs are going to be the ones that bridge the gap between what we need and what we get. The insurance market has been slow to innovation. Even the brokerage firms have been slow to innovation because there hasn't been a case for change. And yes, they're experimenting on a lot of stuff, but our experience as a buyer still is very similar to what it was maybe 5 years ago.
Right. The innovation is taking place behind the scenes, not in front.
It's definitely taking place behind the scenes. It also is taking place in a vacuum where insurance carriers and brokers, they don't really hear from customers. So my hope from this session is I am able to bridge that gap to give an unfiltered perspective, which hopefully will be refreshing in an insurance conference, to tell them about, what we need and what we're actually getting.
I also know you do a lot with AI, so why don't we start talking about what's your current mission statement? What are you trying to accomplish with AI? Where are you guys at with that?
I think in terms of AI, talking internally about what we're doing, there's a bunch of initiatives that we are pursuing to make sure that our teams have efficiency, they have leverage, we're doing things the better way. But I think more so where the AI will come into picture is when we go to market. The insurance process is very much renewal focused at this point of time. The broker's value gets evaluated by how much cost savings that they have delivered versus proactive risk prevention and risk mitigation. So my hope from a risk management perspective is I flip that script to say, how can we prevent losses before they happen? The best kind of claims are the ones that don't happen. I want to make sure that that happens in our case. There's other part of it where carriers and brokers are focusing a lot on AI and been at McKinsey, been at Zurich. I've had a front seat to those things. So I hope that, on their side, we see the innovations that trickle their way to us.
So trying to turn risk into a value add.
Absolutely.
Right? Using AI to go out into the market, and that makes sense to me. And then to drive reduction in claims using AI. What's some practical things that come to mind?
Let's take a few examples. If I am thinking about sensors in our building that would give us an indication of leakage, water leakage, before it happens, or the moment it happens that we get that. Can we do that to actually proactively do something to prevent the losses? The other example is using AI to kind of tell us when we make our CapEx investments to improve the resilience of our properties, depending on our claims and loss history, where is it that we're going to get the most bang for our buck? So to give you an example, like maybe in the affordable housing segment that we have, installing a camera will take, call it $100, $200, and that actually helps us prevent a multi-million-dollar claim. Now, again, the claim is going from the insurance market, but it also impacts us long-term with our premium. Can we avoid that, right? So there's a lot of these things that we can do.
Are the signals yes?
Yes. So the pattern recognition pieces of it, and again, just like most places, we are at the beginning stages, but my hope is that we get to a place where these things become embedded in our DNA and we do this as part of business as usual.
I know that you're in risk now, so our audience is risk managers, but I also know you worked at some carrier. And so let's talk about how you think AI is going to shape the carrier market. Let's play a little hypothesis game. What shifts are you thinking going to happen in carrier workflows or in risk? So we talked about the risk workflows. What is going to happen with carriers? Because I keep thinking the entire insurance model is based on actuary, the past. How does real-time data, how do these things affect how insurance carriers should be looking at how they write and bind policies?
Honestly, I think it's going to take time to have that shift happen, but I'm already seeing the shift in the last 3 years. So let me put it in the context of timeline, right? So insurance carriers were already doing a lot of analytic stuff, the traditional analytic stuff, submission prioritization, straight through processing, fraud detection. There's a lot of things that are happening. November 2022, ChatGPT comes out. 23 and 24, carriers were very focused on experimentation.
Yeah, right.
And where can the use cases be applied for Gen AI? 2025, now that we are here, the boards are asking questions. Hey, show me the value of this investment that you did or any ongoing investment you're going to do. So I believe that the way carriers are approaching AI and Gen AI specifically now is more of a strategic end-to-end versus what it used to be, thousand use cases popping everywhere. It will also have a meaningful impact on their operating model. So the carrier data infrastructures and systems, it's not built for large language models. So they're going to have to think about how to rewire that. And honestly, to me, the big part of it also has to do with leadership alignment and change management. Underwriters, insurance is a very traditional business, relationship-focused business. How do you change people to behave in a way that you want them to?
Do you think carriers, this is just opinion, but do you think carriers should hire and promote from within and pick someone on their team or a group of people to be AI champions? Or do you think they should go out and find people who know about AI and bring them into the insurance world? What's the strategy that you would take?
It's a very hairy topic. There's a couple of parts where it's like hiring or reskilling or upskilling the current team. And then there's the other trade-off, which is, buy, build, or partner. My perspective is it's a combination. The best successes that I've seen at insurance carriers and brokers from my work at McKinsey and Zurich is you create pods. So you have, call it 2 or 3 in a box kind of a setup. So you have a traditional underwriter or a claims adjuster. You have someone who's an AI person, call it a data scientist, could also be like an AI engineer. The titles change a lot, basically. And then there's someone from like IT or technology from a systems perspective. The 3 of them working together on figuring out what needs to be done and really executing it, that really matters. The underwriter will tell them how they make decisions. The systems person will make it happen. The AI person will try and replicate that through AI. Now, this 3-in-a-box setup that I talked about, it's important to have the leadership support and the leadership alignment. Carriers need to decide how fast they want to go. They need to decide how much they want to do. And this is where the strategic end-to-end, the prioritization, where the value is going to come from, all of that is important. But the best success will be when you put the different teams together, and you can either hire them if you don't have it, or you can put your internal people if you do have it.
I love that. Let's ask about, where does risk management fit into that equation for you guys? So let's imagine you have these pods, which I think is a smart approach. Should risk, not IT risk, but just risk in general, be part of the AI conversation?
It has to be. It has to be, because see, carriers and brokers like to talk about customer centricity and importance and so on, right? When I think of our operating model today, the submission process is still very manual. Like, you have to gather, 100 fields of information, provide it to the markets. It all gets done in Excel, PDF. Sometimes data is missing. We actually are very opaque about, okay, well, if the data is missing, how does it get treated in the different underwriting models of the carrier? The biggest contribution in my mind that AI can make is they can create a segment of one through all their customers. So they can come and tell me in rank order, hey, here are the things that are most important to us in our underwriting. If you tell us this, we will be able to underwrite you better. We don't want just a capacity provider. We want partners. We want to be able to work with our carriers.
You want everyone to be part of the program.
Absolutely. And the big part of it is the automation pieces, right? So brokers creating portals so that they know the best markets to go in. The industry has a lot of inefficiency, and I think AI will fix those efficiency. It will benefit us because then we are a segment of one. It will also benefit us because our costs will be lower, so hopefully premiums will be down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least not go up.
Yes, not go up.
Let's talk about that leadership gap, though. So do you think the leaders of modern insurance brokers, carriers, all that stuff, do you think those are the leaders who can usher in a new insurance industry?
That's a great question. I think they do. I think they can. There's a couple aspects that I'll talk about. There's one part which is, just the external pressures and so on. But there's the other part of competitiveness, right? There are a few large brokers that have come out and said, oh, the world is changing. We haven't kept up with the pace. We're going to invest, $1 billion towards all our systems, processes. We want to be the forefront of technology.
We're going to modernize our infrastructure.
Exactly. And as I, in my role, do broker RFP and start to see the capabilities, the ones that are investing in technology really stand out.
You could tell.
You could tell, right? And the traditional broker who come and say, oh, I know this guy at that carrier and that guy at that carrier, and I'm going to get you kind of the best pricing. They are the brokers that still are in the world where you're thinking renewal to renewal.
Yeah.
You're not thinking throughout the year. The best brokers are bringing us alternative risk transfer strategies. They're bringing us captive structure innovations. They're bringing us InsurTech partners that we can use for our purposes, and that is going to make our insurance even better. And those are the kinds of people that we want to see. It all starts at the top. So the brokers and carriers, their leaders, they need to have this willingness that, hey, if I don't do this, it's going to be an existential threat for my company, and that's why I need to do this.
A lot of risk managers in construction and property management, they typically try to go with carriers or go with brokerages that they know by name, the ones you see at shows like this. Do you think it's more important to find the right program partner for you than it is to, have a big name partner? How do you prioritize status versus innovation?
Innovation is extremely important. It's one of our big criteria when we look at potential partners. A brand name it only goes as far. What I would like to see is more so other things. So, for example, do they have the expertise to handle the complexity of the programs that we have? Do they have the bench strength to manage the servicing demands that we have? Because we acquire and sell properties all the time throughout the year. So it's
So
not that
your portfolio is changing constantly as well.
literally daily basis. I was on calls today and we're doing some transactions today.
Yeah, right.
One in Vegas. So that's the point I'm trying to make is there is those aspects that also come into picture. But I do think that innovation is going to become more and more important because, listen, the point is, take any big company, Coca-Cola, Verizon, anyone. Insurance is a cost center at this point of time, right?
Exactly.
How do you reduce that? It's through innovation. It's through finding the right partners. And that's what we want in our carriers and brokers is the partners who work with us, not the ones that run away when the risks change.
Absolutely. Last question about risk management. Let's do this. So you are a technical guy. Obviously, it seems like you know the ins and outs of the insurance industry. What about the average risk manager at a construction company? They could be doing $1 billion of revenue. How are they going to keep up with cyber and AI responsibilities and probably have a CIO that is pretty old school in the way that they approach these problems? How do you suggest the average risk manager approach this? Is it finding partners? Is it educating themselves? How can they? Where can they go? You know, what advice do you give to your team? All those kind of things.
No, I think the biggest part is curiosity. That intellectual curiosity will really help them. The other important thing that will be good for them is how they influence the leaders. And that would, again, be a case-by-case basis. So if I'm a risk manager at $1 billion company, do my CISO, the chief security officer, believes in stringent cybersecurity measures? If not, how do I convince that person? Some people get convinced by data. Some people need a story behind it. How do I convince that person? Because again, in your role, you're trying to do your job, but you sit in a place where you have to influence a bunch of stakeholders.
Translation.
So have that intellectual curiosity, consistently stay abreast with innovation. I think those are the two ways in which you can really make a difference as a risk manager.
So the last thing I want is, because you've served so many different roles within this industry, one key that a lot of people say important to this industry is curiosity. So you said that, so great job. What's a piece of advice you would give to someone coming into the industry? And where would you point them today?
That's a great question. So first and foremost, I'm a true believer that insurance plays a very critical role in our society. It allows businesses to run their business without worrying about the risk and really help people when honestly they really need it, right? So it serves a very noble purpose in my mind. For people who are coming into this industry, I talked about curiosity as one aspect of it. But the other part that I will talk about is to stay abreast with the dynamic environment. We live in an environment where things are changing constantly. If you think about catastrophe risk, if you think about trade, if you think about workforce, technology, and the insurance industry may or may not be able to keep up with it, but the future generation needs to think about these things so that they can bring the change. So I think making sure that you're up to speed on all the things that are going around you and the new innovations that are coming up, very, very important for the success of any young professional.
Would you point them a carrier, a broker? Would you point them at, where would you point them? Where would you say, hey, this is a young person. Here is a good place that's exciting to get started?
Honestly, there's lots of resources. I will miss out a few, but RIMS is a great resource.
RIMS, yeah.
You know, reading like Business Insurance, Insurance Insider, magazines like that. I'm trying to kind of tell you like things that I did.
Yeah, for everyone out there that's listening, go to your RIMS local chapter. You don't have to go to the
100%.
RIMS. The RIMS local chapter stuff is much better content than even the national.
And it's geared towards risk managers, right? And carriers and brokers, they send thought pieces all the time. Go and subscribe to those things. I think another important one, which I will say, is Wall Street Journal and New York Times, because anything insurance you can get from that. But how is that insurance
affecting the world?
Affecting the politics, the social dynamics, the economy, like that you see over there. And honestly, it's very fascinating.
Insurance is really one of the things that holds all of us together, right? Everybody is invested in your business being successful for them to make money, which is a pretty powerful thing.
You know, when I started in insurance, one of the big draw for me was that anything that happens in the world, and I bet you anything, it affects insurance in some way. There's a trade war happening, let's say, it will affect you. There's an earthquake that happens, it will affect you. I don't know, any event, just literally pick any event, it will affect some kind of insurance in some kind of way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Risk Management Brick by Brick is brought to you by TrustLayer. Find out how TrustLayer manages risk so that the people can build the physical world around us. Head over to trustlayer.io. And then make sure to subscribe to Risk Management Brick by Brick on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. On behalf of the TrustLayer team, thank you for listening.